We're starting with Raw now, and news of CM Punk's tricep tear dominated the headlines leading up to the show, as it was confirmed he'd address a certain situation during the opening segment. Sure enough, Punk confirmed that as much as he'd like to tape up his tricep and make it to Elimination Chamber and beyond, it seems WrestleMania 40 isn't on the cards for him. Punk refused to feel bad for himself, instead cutting a fiery inspiration promo that was interrupted by Drew McIntyre, the man who Punk eliminated from the Men's Rumble match. As we previously reported, it had been rumored that Drew's future shock DDT caused the injury, and on Raw, McIntyre took full responsibility, saying he intentionally injured Punk in the match. McIntyre said that he couldn't sleep over how things played out for him last Saturday, but after learning of Punk's injury, he slept like a baby, satisfied with what he'd done. Punk vowed that McIntyre would be his first opponent upon his return, resulting in an attack by the Scottish Warrior, and Punk struggled to fight back with only one good arm. McIntyre got the better of Punk until Sami Zayn made the save, ending a great segment that highlighted Punk's promo skills and showcasing the vile villain McIntyre has become. Zayn making the save helps keep the Canadian in the minds of fans and helps build towards the show's main event against McIntyre. Punk's injury is devastating for him, his fans, and those in creative who had big plans, but it's also an opportunity for someone like Drew or Zayn to step in and have a magical moment at WrestleMania. While Punk put on a brave face during this week's Raw, Wade Keller reports that Triple H was irate backstage after the Royal Rumble about Punk's situation. WWE intentionally kept Punk to the final stages of the Royal Rumble to save him from possible injury, but this goes to show that all it takes is one move to go wrong to derail a ton of plans. Although Punk was getting medical attention, neither McIntyre nor Punk were blamed for what happened, and the pair worked effectively without issue to open up Raw. And what did you think of this segment? What would you do now that Punk's injured if you were running WWE's creative? Let us know in the comments. CM Punk suffered a torn triceps during the Royal Rumble, but for Kevin Owens, he walked into Tropicana Field and his match with Logan Paul with a serious injury. Despite the storyline with Paul being centered around Owens dealing with a hand injury, F4W Online reports that Owens had a fractured foot injury, but muscled through the pain to compete. Owens suffered the injury during the US Title Contenders Tournament Finals with Santos Escobar, which took place during the January 5th edition of SmackDown. While Owens has been in physical segments since then, the match with Paul was his first since the injury happened, and we're wishing him a speedy recovery. For years, there has been speculation about a match between The Rock and Roman Reigns, which according to the Brahma Bull, was once the plan for WrestleMania 39 last April. Talk of a match once again surfaced after The Rock's promo on the Day 1 2024 edition of Raw, but with Cody Rhodes winning the Men's Rumble, what does this mean for the Great One? In a recent interview with the Will Kane Show on Fox News, TKO's newest board member was asked about a match with his cousin, and he said he and WWE are figuring things out. We're talking about that right now. I'd like to consider myself a long gamer and a builder, so the idea of going up against Roman Reigns and creating, if we were to do something like that, quite possibly, and I mean this respectfully of all the other WrestleManias before us, and keep in mind, Will, as you know, I was born into the wrestling business with my grandfather and my dad. My grandfather wrestled for Vince McMahon Sr. back when it was called the WWF, my dad came along in the 80s, Rocky Johnson, and here I come along. So I think with all the success and the buildup of all the WrestleManias in the past, if we were to do something like that, we could possibly put on the biggest WrestleMania of all time. So the short answer and the long answer is, we're figuring it out. It's once seemed that The Rock and Roman Reigns would collide at WrestleMania 40, but that isn't as certain now. And we'll just have to keep tuning in to see if we ever get this dream match. Back to Raw, and during his time on the mic, CM Punk gave a shout out to his friend Chad Gilbert, who's been suffering with cancer, leading many to wonder who Chad is. To answer the question, Gilbert is a popular American musician who is also part of a rock band called New Found Glory and has given many memorable performances since 1997. Chad is widely revered in the rock community, and CM Punk was happy to give him a shout out this week, and we're sending Chad the best in his ongoing battle. On Raw, Pat McAfee appeared and joined Michael Cole on the commentary table, and then Cole confirmed what was happening, officially announcing a change to Raw and SmackDown. With Kevin Patrick's release, it seems that Wade Barrett and Corey Graves will work on SmackDown, while Cole will be reuniting with McAfee, this time on Raw. This is Pat's first full-time return to WWE in years, and fans can look forward to his enthusiasm and excitement every time they tune in on Monday nights. Cody Rhodes was on Raw to discuss his Royal Rumble victory, but was quickly interrupted by Seth Rollins, who turned expectations upside down with what he had to say. The World Heavyweight Champion implored Rhodes not to challenge Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, but rather to step into the ring with himself over the Workman's title. Rollins spoke about defending his title night in and night out while Reigns picks and chooses when he wants to work, and asked Cody what kind of man he wants to be. The segment ended with Rhodes saying he'd think about it, as the loss of CM Punk leaves a massive void on the WrestleMania card and leaves Rollins without an adversary. Planting seeds for Rhodes vs. Rollins instead of the anticipated rematch with Reigns is a bold creative decision that drums up intrigue and gives a twist on the road to Mania. Up until 48 hours ago, the road to WrestleMania felt rather predictable, and Cody's quest to finish the story could see him face Rollins and win the World Heavyweight Championship. This would leave Reigns without an opponent for the show, but we're sure that WWE would find an electrifying opponent, a real Brahma bull of a man to face the Tribal Chief. WWE needs to turn CM Punk's injury into a positive and find a way to fill the void, and that could be for Rhodes and Rollins to headline Night 1 and Rock vs. Reigns on Night 2. Like Punk's promo earlier in the show, this was a fantastic promo from Rollins, and like his nemesis, it was abundantly clear that Seth believed every word. This segment has had everyone talking, and what do you think of it? And who should Cody face at WrestleMania? Let us know below. Now, Seth Rollins didn't compete at last weekend's Royal Rumble event, but the World Heavyweight Champion was shown having a great time watching from a VIP box. Rollins watched on as 30 superstars competed for a potential match against him, but the Architect was far from impressed by some of the entrances. On social media, a video has been going around of Rollins hearing Karrion Kross's theme and being completely befuddled as to who the theme belongs to. Kross's Final Testament theme is pretty new, but there's plenty of other generic-sounding WWE themes, an issue that WWE should look to address before next year's Royal Rumble. As we all know by now, Vince McMahon has been accused of sexual trafficking, among other allegations, by former employee Janelle Grant, which resulted in last week's lawsuit. Grant claims that McMahon also shared explicit content of her without consent with WWE employees, including talent, and directed her to engage in sexual acts with some of them. According to the Wall Street Journal, the suit alleges that in July 2021, Grant was ordered to create content for a superstar who was described as an ex-UFC champion. The suit doesn't name the individual, but they have been identified as Brock Lesnar, and McMahon allegedly shared explicit photos with Lesnar, saying he liked what he saw. After Lesnar agreed to a new WWE contract, McMahon texted Grant in August 2021, indicating that part of the deal was f***ing you, in a shocking detail found in the lawsuit. In December, McMahon allegedly gave Grant's cell phone number to Lesnar. Lesnar asked her to send a video of herself urinating, and after she did, he called her a bitch. In December, the lawsuit claims that Lesnar expressed a desire to set a play date, but his travel plans were disrupted due to a snowstorm, in another shocking allegation. It's unclear at this time whether Brock will respond to the lawsuit, but there's clearly much more to this story than initially thought. Keep checking back with Slat Rock Wrestling as more information on this lawsuit involving Vince McMahon, Brock Lesnar, and others in WWE becomes available. What do you think of this story concerning Brock Lesnar? Are you shocked by it? Let us know in the comments section below. So Vince McMahon is gone from WWE as well as TKO Group Holdings, or at the very least, that's what both WWE and TKO want individuals to believe has happened. While McMahon has officially stepped down, some aren't convinced he's really gone, and that includes former Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion Ronda Rousey. On Twitter, Rousey claimed that as long as Bruce Pritchard is with WWE, Vince will have a hand in running the business, stating that the WWE exec is Vince's avatar. Rousey added that this was the situation when McMahon retired in 2022, and it's no secret that Pritchard is a close aide and confidant of the now former chairman. Rousey isn't the only former superstar to speak on the allegations, as on social media, Nikki and Brie Garcia said that they were shocked and disheartened to hear about these allegations. The pair said that they don't stand for or condone the activities alleged in the lawsuit, and they want all women to feel safe in their workplace and their everyday lives. What their statement doesn't do is mention John Laurinaitis by name, as it's alleged that Grant was trafficked to the former Raw general manager, who is Nikki and Brie's stepfather. Whether you believe that McMahon is really gone or not, TKO has officially parted ways with him, and in an SEC filing released this past Monday, the WWE parent company said, "On January 26, 2024, Vincent K. McMahon notified the board of directors, the board of TKO Group Holdings, or TKO, of his resignation from his positions as executive chair and a member of the board, and any other positions, employment or otherwise, he has at TKO and its subsidiaries, in each case with immediate effect as of January 26, 2024. The filing proves that McMahon has vacated every position he's held within the company, though if Rousey is to be believed, he could still have unofficial ties to the promotion he's left. According to PW Insider, it was reported that Endeavor owner Ari Emanuel, who recently acquired WWE, is unlikely to tolerate any allegations like those presented in the Grant suit. It was added that if anyone believes Emanuel may turn a blind eye to these issues or perhaps stop short of addressing them head-on, then frankly, they don't understand him. Emphasis was put on Emanuel's determination to quickly handle anything that might pose a threat to his businesses, especially since his relationship with WWE is still relatively new. It was pointed out that if Emanuel was willing to walk away from investments in Saudi Arabia years ago without hesitation, then he'd have no qualms about eliminating McMahon from TKO. That no-nonsense approach goes to everyone in WWE that could potentially harm or impact WWE's business going forward, and Cody Rhodes has said that TKO has taken things seriously. TKO has also submitted filings regarding McMahon's resignation, and this news has caught the attention of Ryback, who has had a lot of hate for WWE over the years. Ryback demanded that Triple H and other execs are fired from WWE, and we'll have to wait and see whether TKO cuts more people connected to McMahon in the coming months. In the Raw main event, Sami Zayn and Drew McIntyre wrote the latest chapter of their intense rivalry, with Drew overwhelming Zayn for the majority of the bout. Drew, driven by frustration, took the fight to Zayn and punished him with unbridled power, though a momentary lapse of judgment allowed Zayn to fight his way back. Despite this, McIntyre was able to cut off comeback attempts, but an attempted Claymore was countered into a Blue Thunder Bomb, earning a "This is awesome" chant and a 2 count. Moments later, the Scottish Warrior covered up during a Haluva kick, accidentally delivering a low blow. McIntyre followed with the Claymore for the win. This was a fantastic main event from two of WWE's very best, and though Zayn as an underdog always works, it was McIntyre's performance of heelishness that really shined. Drew has fully embraced the role of mocking opponents and taunting the crowd, but let his expressions and body language do the talking for him during this match. 2 nights after the Royal Rumble, this helped set the tone for the coming year, as McIntyre established himself as one of Raw's top stars and one to watch. The first Raw match on the road to WrestleMania 40 saw the Judgment Day's Finn Balor and Damian Priest put their undisputed WWE tag titles on the line against DIY. Backstage, Baszler said it was time that those comfortable challenging the Judgment Day find out how ruthless they can be, while Priest denounced all distractions going forward. With that in mind, the two teams had a great match, complete with a handful of near falls that amplified the crowd, who were hotter for DIY than they've been in a long time. Non-stop action and a clean finish made this one of the better Raw matches of 2024, showing that talent shines when they're given the chance to do their thing in the ring. After his team's victory, Priest called out R-Truth, who after some playful back and forth, found himself on the receiving end of a beatdown. Priest admitting that he likes Truth and excusing himself from the beatdown was a nice touch, and separates him from the more one-dimensional heels on the show. While The Miz made the save for Truth, the numbers disadvantage was too great for the faces to overcome, and the Judgment Day are back to being the imposing force that should always be. Jey Uso was able to recover from his Royal Rumble loss on this week's Raw with a win over Bronson Reed, defeating the bigger, stronger big man with an Uso splash. This match was a solid one that spotlighted the underrated Reed and also emphasized Uso, who'd been somewhat aimless ahead of the Royal Rumble. With the creative focus shifting to WrestleMania, obviously WWE wants the popular Jey Uso on the card, so it makes sense to build him up with a quality win like what we saw. Backstage, Raw GM Adam Pearce signed Andrade to a Raw contract, and the segment was interrupted by SmackDown's Nick Aldis. A bit of banter with Aldis and Pearce saw the Brit end the segment by taking a call from Braun Breaker, teasing big moves for the former NXT champion. In an exciting Intercontinental Championship match, Gunther retained over Kofi Kingston after weathering a late comeback from the babyface. Gunther kicked out at 2 after a boom drop and was able to physically overwhelm Kingston before flattening him with a powerbomb to win. Gunther had the fans hooked, and this strong reaction is reflective of his booking, especially over the last year and a half, and the credibility he brings to his performances. As for Kofi, he reminded the WWE Universe why he's one of the best faces of the last 20 or so years, as he's dynamic and likable, which naturally makes him endearing. The support of fans fuels Kingston and allows him to unleash a fury of offense, even if it wasn't enough to capture the IC title this week. Gunther is just so overwhelming that no late-match barrage can alter his focus and his determination to bring pride and respect back to the mat. Wins like this only add to the idea that whoever dethrones Gunther will have earned it and will be a legitimate star as a result. Now, this year's Royal Rumble was the second edition of the show to take place following Big E's broken neck injury that he'd suffered during a March 2022 SmackDown. Questions remain about Big E's future in the ring, but as always, the former WWE champion is remaining positive in spite of everything that's transpired. Speaking to Denise Salcido, Big E was asked if he felt left out by not competing in the Men's Rumble match and said he's okay and it's been cool to watch the past couple of years. Big E added that while superstars are often thinking about their own careers, it's been nice for him to survey the WWE landscape and was excited to see Liv Morgan and Jade Cargill. Speaking about his experience at the event, Big E said it felt like a big reunion as he's reconnecting with talent who he hasn't seen in a while since he's not on the road. Big E may wrestle again, but it's impossible to say for certain, and it's great that his injury didn't stop him from having a blast at the Royal Rumble. In the Women's Royal Rumble match, Naomi shocked the world by making her return as the number 2 entrant over a year and a half after infamously walking out of WWE. Naomi's performance was nothing short of impressive, as she lasted over an hour before being eliminated by Jade Cargill and thanked TNA for their support after the match. In an update, Fightful Select confirmed that Naomi has re-signed with WWE and she is expected to compete on SmackDown going forward. Naomi had been wrestling as Trinity in TNA, but had been transparent with wrestlers about her return to WWE, with her Rumble appearance confirming all speculations. Sources from TNA have indicated that it became increasingly apparent at the start of the year that Naomi's tenure with the organization was winding down. Despite her exit, TNA and Naomi have a very good relationship, as both sides appreciate what the other has done, and we're excited to see what Naomi does next as a superstar once again. The Royal Rumble event saw plenty of surprising names appear, and while Alexa Bliss wasn't among them, the WWE superstar and recent new mother was backstage at the event. PW Insider reports that Bliss was backstage, visiting over the weekend, and even though she didn't wrestle, we're sure she had a blast watching the action unfold. Right now, Mercedes Moné is one of professional wrestling's hottest free agents, as her contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling came to an end last year. Despite talks with WWE, Moné is not expected to return to the company, as the two sides couldn't agree on money, and now she is expected to make an appearance elsewhere. PW Insider reports that Moné is set to return to wrestling by March, but it won't be with WWE, and while it wasn't stated, it's believed that Moné may be heading to AEW. Despite the ankle injury suffered last May, Moné has been busy during her time out of the ring and filed trademarks that suggested the launch of her own clothing line. Moné's acting career also holds potential for more opportunities, but if AEW is the goal, then we may know exactly when Mercedes will officially become All Elite. After all, AEW will host their much-anticipated Revolution event in March at the Greensboro Coliseum, a venue that Moné has competed in several times in the past. Although the door to WWE may not be open at this time, the wrestling world remains full of possibilities, and fans will be eager to see where Mercedes Moné's career takes her next. So if Moné does join AEW, how do you think she'll impact the women's division, and what matches would you like to see? Let us know down in the comments below. For the Men's Royal Rumble match, Jimmy and Jey Uso kicked things off against each other in a personal opening that hit very close to home for two men in the crowd. As shared online in photos and videos, Jacob and Zilla Fatu, who are part of the Anoa'i family, were in the crowd and were grooving to the entrance themes of each Uso. Booker T has said he wants to bring Jacob Fatu to WWE, and the NXT commentator helped train Zilla, so don't be surprised if the bloodline grows by 2 over the next 12 months. Zoey Stark and Shayna Baszler continued their climb to a women's tag title chance on Raw with a mostly uncompetitive win over Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. The prospective top contenders soundly defeated the former champions, with Stark wiping out Green with a Z360 for the win. The shortness of this match meant that there was little creative to sink one's teeth into, and it was a match that existed solely to give the victors a win and nothing else. 72 hours on from winning the women's tag titles on SmackDown, the Kabuki Warriors kept their momentum going with a win over Tegan Nox and Natalya on Raw. And we're ending with Bayley, and any attempt to announce her WrestleMania 40 plan to challenge Rhea Ripley was thwarted by the arrival of Nia Jax. Jax attacked Ripley, leaving the Women's World Champion lying after 3 leg drops before she confronted Bayley and said Ripley isn't going to make it to WrestleMania. The 2024 Women's Royal Rumble match winner responded by saying she'll reveal who she'll challenge at WrestleMania on this Friday's SmackDown. The seeds of Bayley splitting from Damage Control continue to be planted, as Bayley's claim that the group was her idea only further enhanced the dissension and disconnect within the faction. This will ultimately result in Bayley being kicked from the group and challenging Io Sky at WrestleMania, leaving Ripley to focus on the women of her own roster. As for Nia Jax, she'll likely be heading to Perth to face Ripley at next month's Elimination Chamber, and there's no better opponent to ensure Rhea gets cheered in her home country than the Irresistible Force.